Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Hans Muench, Director of International Development for the Fitness Industry Technology Council, also called FITSE. Hans, welcome to the Wexer podcast. How are you?
Very good, and greetings from Switzerland.
Yes, we're going very international. We've got the Auckland, Switzerland vibe right now. we spent half the time offline just talking about all of our travel, which is a bit sad, but we get to see the world, don't we, Hans?
And I don't regret traveling.
No, that's true. I agree with you. But for many listeners that don't know, I always kind of ask the question of did the fitness industry find you, or did you find the fitness industry? How did it all start, Hans?
Well, I was born and grew up in Toronto, Canada, and through tennis I got to fitness. Okay. I was a ranked junior player, and I think I was 13 or 14 when I joined the Fitness Institute, which was a place where Olympic athletes and corporate people worked out. And that was a very good first experience. And I think if people have a good first experience, it will stay with them for a long time. And if they have a not good experience, they might just opt out for a while or forever. Or it could be that, grudging, I don't really like it because it didn't start well for me.
Yes. No, I understand. And then I guess, how did things evolve? Give me a little bit of a journey. So that
I went down to the States to finish high school to pursue my tennis outdoors, because winters in Toronto can be brutal.
Absolutely.
I had a tennis scholarship in Miami and in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. Then I spent 5.5 years traveling around the world, working in tennis camps, sports facilities, and then got connected with Ursa and Life Fitness, and those two had about 20 plus years of my career. I was the volunteer European liaison for 8 years while I was working for Life Fitness as their first director of sales and marketing for Europe. And then I worked in Boston with them for 5 years, came back to Munich and spent 12 years working there. I was a half a year in Austria. I'd worked a couple of years in Hong Kong and in Italy. And the last 11 years I've been living in Switzerland.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like there's so many stories I can pick on, but let's go to as we go through the podcast. Well, I'm sure some of those will come out. Maybe tell us a little bit about the role at the FITSE at the moment, Hans.
Because of my relationship with Brian O'Rourke, the president, and he'd asked me if I could just keep my eyes and ears out. And at the FIBO, I'm moderating a panel discussion with 4 distinguished people that will be on the Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. in the Convex Hall with, besides Brian O'Rourke from Virtua Gym, you probably know the CEO. His name is? Hugo Braun, yes. Yeah. You have the person responsible for fitness for the largest Eastern European chain, Magnus Sedved, who is working for Benefit Systems that have 360 clubs, and the Eastern Europe's largest aggregator,
right,
with millions of users. And Vincenzo Lardinelli from Italy is also involved, and Henrik Gockel, who's the partner in the 22 club chain called Primetime Fitness in Germany and in Switzerland. They'll be there. And had a nice gathering in Las Vegas at the Health and Fitness Association the night before the convention. And basically anything that touches international that requires a little bit of help, I post, I encourage people to join and share the information. spreading the Bible according to Brian, as they say.
Well, look, and as a FTSE member for many years now, I heavily recommend it in terms of the networking and everything that you guys do. So appreciate everything you do. And then, of course, in today's episode, we're going to kind of dive down on our industry trends report, European, what's happening in the European region. So I think let's just dive in. Like, I would love your perspective on, especially, of course, digital fitness podcast. So, I think it's, digital fitness in Europe is expected to hit 14 billion now by the end of 2025. Like, for you, what would be the three things that you feel like is growing that? What's growing that growth? What's creating that growth?
First, I think it's helpful to define what people understand as digital fitness.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of moving parts to that, and there's both hardware and software. There's digital content, but also digital delivery of various elements. And probably the biggest thing in the past 18 months has been the ChatGPT phenomenon,
of course,
which affects content, saves people a lot of time, helps with research, and generally makes people's lives a lot easier. In the jobs that they're doing it better and doing it quicker. So we're seeing lots of facets of that. I've heard a number of talks in different countries addressing that issue. And that's one piece. The other piece is that there's a lot more digital relationship outreach between the fitness clubs. I'm talking more on the club side and less on the consumer fitness side.
Sure. Understand.
Just yesterday, the annual data survey of the German industry came out. They were bringing the results, and the results are basically positive, and positive. More members, more revenue, higher penetration rate. 40% of people under 30 are a member of the health club in Germany, but only 8% over the age of 50, 55, I think. And that points to a lot of potential because older people, and one of the buzzwords of the past year has been longevity. They want to live better, longer, maybe reverse some of the negative effects of maybe not taking care of their body for a decade or two. And the seamless integration of technology in the clubs, I would say maybe there's 5 or 6 touch points. One is entry into the clubs. And usually people have a bracelet or they have a card and they're tapping through. Some clubs are using fingerprints, some are eye recognition. There's, before they come into the club, the digital contact, social media, the digital sales. The leading company right now in Germany called Trinity gave a nice podcast live in Mallorca at the Meet the Top event last week. And I was able to share a couple things because many markets are very insular. Germans look at what's happening in Germany. They might not know what's happening in the Netherlands. They might not know what's happening in the States. God forbid, down under. So I think that the acceptance of digital membership signups has increased significantly. Some clubs, as much as 90%, are doing online. Even luxury clubs that are at $75, $80 or more per month are signing up digitally, which it surprised me a little bit, but it's a good thing.
Do you think what's cutting through, and we kind of see it in the platform, so I don't want to answer the question, but is persona-based content? People are following people and getting sort of supported or inspired by people. So we see, on the platforms that the more that, or any club, it doesn't matter where they are in the segment, the more that they embrace their local stars, the higher the usage. There's a direct correlation. Do you think that's the growing, that will continue to grow that way? Because of course, I think we're talking to Eric from McKinsey, and he was saying there's no if the golden everyone's got a different golden number of how many times they want members to come. But if the golden number is 2.5, which has always been the flirted round number, digital was probably the only way to achieve that, because time's going to get in. Of course we want them to come to the clubs, but you need to be able to support them when they're not in the clubs, when they're traveling like we do, or kids get in the way, and there's no correlation that shows they think it's a different experience as long as it's connected to the club's brand. So do you think persona-based content is kind of here to stay? That's how it will move forward?
It's a good question. And although I don't see the majority of clubs doing it yet over on this side, I think it's absolutely the holy grail per se. Because if someone is not interested in childcare and you're sending out content about the creche or the childcare, they're going to tune out of that after the first line. And if they're interested in yoga, we should give them yoga content or mindfulness, things around that area. And that can be done at the beginning when someone signs up on a checklist. It can be done ongoing, that people can adapt their preferences. There can be also interactive, just like the algorithms on the social media apps to say, if you've been opening these a certain number of times, then you should be getting more of that. And at the same time, the digital outreach, and I'll use an example from Vegas. I went into an EOS club.
Beautiful clubs.
Well, I wouldn't say they're beautiful at $29 a month. You do get one induction, and otherwise, in order to get in and do a tour, I had to fill out my data. So I filled out my data, and in the past 2 weeks, I have gotten, I would say, about 6 or 7 messages, and they're all salesy.
Right.
And somebody didn't say, this guy doesn't live in Vegas. This guy doesn't live in America. He's never going to buy a membership. Maybe we need to say, is there an online option that might be of interest to you?
Yes.
The wife of Henrik Gaukel's partner in Frankfurt, I sometimes stay with them when I'm in Frankfurt. She pays $50 per session to be one of 20 people on the screen for the former personal trainer of Gwyneth Paltrow to get and be one and to have that personal trainer say her name 2 or 3 times during the hours worth the $50. That's okay. My brother in Vancouver, he takes online personal training 2 to 3 times a week, regardless of where he is. He has his own Piper plane. He flies around North America. He will bring his plane down to not miss his personal training session.
Wow. That's dedication.
But it's also affordability.
Agreed.
$50 to be part of a group X, or maybe you can get it. I was in Munich last month. This month, sorry. For the eGym event, and eGym's doing some great stuff in the digital space. And I got signed up. The master Pilates instructor for Stott Marathon Pilates has a digital content delivery, and I signed up for that. And that type of thing. Said, I'd like to do Pilates, but I'm not a member of a club here that offers it. There's a solution, but it has to become a habit, and it has to become a commitment. Otherwise, it's one of many things out there.
And do you think, because what we see, I think the 14 billion number is you got the B2C side, and of course you've got the club side. We're of course engaging with the B2C, but there's still 2 worlds. Like what we're seeing is there's the world that the 1%, scaled online personal trainers that are creating content, getting people to follow them, scaling themselves to be able to have as many members as some health clubs. And then we've also got some clubs that are doing it really well. Like I always give a shout out to Smart Fit in terms of they actually run their digital completely separate to their club business, and that seemed to work very, very well. But there's not as much connectivity, like in terms of, let's call it superstar instructors on platforms connected to the clubs. Like there's many times I've been in many boardrooms, as you know, Hans, where I'm saying, well, why wouldn't you create the superstar, with the likes of, Patch and Good Life and stuff? Why wouldn't you create a model where you raise the ceiling for instructors and then also get them to drop in to do events, because they become superstars really, really quickly. Like, everyone that's been on our system for years, they still get talked to in the street. Like they know them because they've done that cycling session for, many, 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 many times. So they feel like they know that individual, which I don't think the industry is connecting that well enough in terms of, let's call it influencer. And I know that means that the group has to kind of be a bit of a talent management organization as well. But I feel like the world needs to come together for the user in terms of being able to support and inspire them. Is that fair, or am I looking at too much with a digital lens?
No, just as there are a certain number of people, let's say 20%, that like to jump around, that might have
Yes.
two memberships.
Yes,
And,
yes.
Just this week, actually, yesterday, the day before, it was announced that WellHub has acquired the other aggregator, Urban Sports Club.
Yes.
And my daughter has an aggregator membership through the company she works at, and
Okay.
she'll go here once and she'll go there once, and that's another piece of the digital delivery that will allow you to do both online classes as well as
Correct.
visit hundreds or thousands of different facilities.
Yes, yes.
That flexibility is what one part of the population wants and demands.
Correct. Yes, yeah, agreed. No, I agree. And then just flipping to strength content, like strength training, like we've seen an absolute huge increase in strength training. So it's 35% of our overall platform is made up of strength training now, which is just, we've never seen that quickly over the last 2 years, raising the system. Like, what is digital growing that, or is that just the trend of people understanding the importance of strength training? What's your view?
There's about 20 to 25% of the German club members that are training on electronic strength machines, be they Milan or EGYM. There's a couple others, but they represent about 70 or 80%. Their Technogym has something as well, BioStrength. And that is another example of digital, or the combination of data collection, totally. Because it's telling you how many pounds or kilos you're lifting, what your range of motion is. It will tell you the number of times you've worked out in the last month or year.
Yes.
And it will save that data. It will also, dovetail into integration with a body composition analysis machine, be InBody or Seiko or some of those. And those are becoming more, and a scan at the beginning that sets you all up. That's making it easier, as well as, do you know the word sarcopenia?
No. Enlighten me.
Sarcopenia is a buzzword over here. It's the term for the loss of muscle as you get older.
Okay, right. Yes.
And there's been a huge campaign from the fitness sector to educate about the need to strength train when you get older to avoid the natural loss of muscle.
Right.
And that has all kinds of consequences. Positive, that you don't fall as often, that you have better balance. There's lots of things that come along. So it's not just the young people, it's not just the middle-aged people, but the older people are doing strength training when they've understood its importance.
Yes, yeah. Actually, of course, we're starting to work quite a lot with insurance companies, and we're working with United Health, and they were saying the biggest indicator for them, which I don't know how they've measured this, but the biggest indicator for them is when you cannot do a box jump or jump off a box. So when you're at that point that you can't do that execution, then you're so much more highly at risk of hip injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries, because of course you are going to have a fall, but you can't manage that fall. And it's quite interesting. Such a simple, like, you don't have the leg strength, you haven't squatted, you haven't done enough to be able to actually handle, a small fall off off a piece of equipment or something like that. So yeah, that's interesting. And I think it's a good movement. I think everyone needs to be educated on the importance of that. So yeah, I agree. Strength training is across the board. It's the people that want to look a little bit better, maybe, and realizing that strength and dieting can drive maybe a better physique, and also, of course, longevity, right?
Yes, and I've got a couple of clients I work with, one a Swedish one and a Dutch one that work in different countries that deliver partly digital nutrition solutions.
Yeah, perfect.
And there are less than 30% of the clubs in the German-speaking market that offer nutrition programs.
True.
These programs can be set up. It will take 2 minutes per member. You can put in groups, group therapy, like you remember Weight Watchers. And in some ways, because it hasn't been a focus, people think they need to come in to train for the to be worthwhile. Boy, there's 21 meals a week that you can help them with. And I think most people agree that if you say which one is more important, exercise or nutrition to reach your goals, if your goal is weight management, I think most people would say it's nutrition. So that's
I agree.
the holy grail that's missing. And we're also picking up. Yeah, go ahead.
Why isn't our space picking up the nutrition side? And I know a lot of people they've tried to create their own brands. They've used drop shipping because it's probably easier. It's more easier than ever, right? In terms of partnerships where they can do all of the logistics for you. You just got to have their brand on top. I know, of course, I always remember the Danish clubs when I first walked in. They had like protein drinks just there straight away 10 years ago, but it really hasn't scaled that much better than what it was 10 years ago. Why do you think it is?
It's a combination of things. Number one, the image of the club industry is not the place you go to lose weight.
True.
The second piece is staff. Some people say, "Oh, we have such turnover of staff," and I heard last week from people that were saying, "Yeah, we let each personal trainer do it within their personal training session," which is, I think, a bucket of BS, because they're not going to have the time to do it. They're used to working with the people on their strength, their cardio, their flexibility, and there's not enough time to do that. And that's a perfect example of how a digital delivery can fill that void.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and so it's so easy to just even create partnerships and actually let the experts do it, but just be connected to the club. So that's the no, I understand. Okay, and then let's flip. I know you got lots of opinions on AI. Like what's the best, like, to the listeners out there, which are predominantly club operators? What would you say for them all looking at? I've seen so many different presentations about AI strategy, which could be ripped up in 2 months because it's got old. How best to embrace AI at the moment if you're sitting as a club group?
I talk about this certainly every week with various operators, with people that are supplying the services, and in terms of the architecture of what you're delivering, I think number one is simplicity. So last October at the European Congress of HFA, Martin Seibold, who I think the CEO of the Life Group, he said, what we do is we focus on attendance, and our algorithm picks out people when they haven't been in the club for 10 days, and we send them a message. And if they don't come in within 7 days after that, we escalate it to the next level. We'll use a different channel, and at some point within a 2-week period, they might be getting a text message, they might be getting a call, because their metric says attendance is a key factor in how long they stay in the club as members.
Totally. Yeah, I agree
with that. If they can engage with them when they're not coming in, at least the member is saying, oh, they're interested, they're following up. And that can be, we have seen that you've been doing this in the club. Can we get you in? There's a class in that's coming up. Can we get you in there? Is there anything that we can do to help you? And that reminder can help people become more regular again.
Totally. And it also shows that you care as a brand.
Yeah, very good point. So, that's that. The CRM systems are starting to integrate this more and more.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that, the bigger picture in terms of profitability and serving the members in a holistic way is there's a lot more revenue out there if you can identify what needs you can serve.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's like going into a supermarket, and I'm sure this has never happened to you, but it happens to me all the time. I just want to get 3 or 5 things. Do I ever go out with just 3 or 5 things? So if you have a menu of different things you can offer and make it pleasant for people, it can be an online sale to be delivered to your home. It can be point of purchase. We talked about the nutrition program. There are sleep programs. Can clubs monetize sleep, improvement of sleep as a program? I think so. They don't have to invent the program. It's off the shelf. Stress management. There's so many things. I sent a message out a couple of days ago, got a response today from the former executive director of a 100 club organization in the Netherlands. And I visited them a couple of years ago. The wonderful woman who's 70 years old, she made me a dinner. The next morning, I went through my 10 exercise regimen that I do every day, 6 days out of 7. And I made pictures. I sent it to her. And I sent her a reminder email that said, are you still doing the exercises? Because when I was there and did them and then I sent her the photos, she told me 2 weeks later, my back pain has gone since I've done those mobility exercises and stretching. And I was just following up, and it was nice to recontact, but it was the digital piece. Sending her the pictures of the exercises, and I did it to a guy. I sent it to a guy in Mallorca that I stayed with for a day this week, and he's like, thank you. I'm going to try to do these exercises because I only exercise when I'm in the club, and that's a couple times per week. And I can do these every day, and better to do 5 exercises than none. And if you have them on your phone and it's
you need
easy,
your own platform, Hans. We need to launch your own platform, Hans on demand.
No, I think that the club, if they don't do their own, should just say, well, there's Wexer, there's something else, there's Peloton or whatever, and say, well, we have 3 different things. So it's not just this yes or no, it's which is the best one that suits me.
Well, and that's why we've always taken a stance of be the platform and let the consumers tell us what's right. Like when we started embracing, well, you highlighted it, like sleep stories and stuff. We actually got a little bit of criticism to go, no, you're a fitness platform. I'm like, well, hang on, fitness is everything. Like if you don't sleep well, you don't. And now, I think 5% of overall usage is sleep stories. So it's I think it's really, really important. I agree for all operators is to look at the variety that you have, because you're serving so many different people and they want different things in their life. Sometimes they want the big heavy workout, sometimes they want yoga, sometimes they want Pilates, sometimes they just want how to roll my shoulders because I've been working so much. It's important to have all, right? And I don't think any one channel can do it. That's like saying, hey, I'm only ever going to watch Formula One. When I have my subscription, I'm also going to watch, rugby, football, Formula One.
The same would go for wearables.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
You've got in the Apple Health, and I've got the Apple Watch, and you've got Garmin. And although that category dropped in 2024, Garmin sales actually went up by 30%. And you have to look, what was Garmin doing differently than others? But my point is that there should be somebody on staff that is fluent in showing people how to use an Apple Health or an Android. But why shouldn't you be selling wearables, the ones that you know how to use, that you can help people with counting their steps when they're not in the club? Simple things.
Yeah, which make a huge impact on life, right? Yeah, no, I agree. And then the other question I get a lot, and I know you get a lot, that's why I wanted to ask you, is all about agents, personalization agents. Of course, we're deploying a lot of AI agents in the space to be able to help personalize. But the thing that we're seeing, which I think is quite ironic, is as the world get so used to being served up content from our social platforms, from all of the stuff, like we used to go from 30% of our usage would be based off what we would call the hero images, so whatever they see first, that was 30%, right? Now we're in a world that 80% is that, and it's not, we can have agents putting the best content through, but people are still just choosing the one that they quickly see that looks perfectly for them. People are getting lazier when it actually looking into how they exercise, is what we're seeing. So I guess two-part question, like how are you, what are you in terms of advice to dealing with agents, because they're so powerful, and what are you seeing? Is there any good use cases?
Oh boy, I'm really looking forward to a call next week that somebody I met in Las Vegas has arranged. I had 2 meetings with him, and I think that's what you're talking about, these
Okay.
agents.
Yes.
And in Mallorca, I met someone who is part of a CRM software delivery company, and he said, look at what I have here from somebody from Lithuania, Eastern Europe, that's created this thing. And it takes 2 pictures on the phone, and then it can analyze you. And it sounded very much like what the guy who's an Australian was showing me in Vegas. And it might be as little as $2 per member. It could be as much as $10 per member. And this is an area that I think people are first finding out about, and then determining how much can we charge and how many people can we get on this, and show the value added. And the jury is out, but I would say probably $5 to $10 as an add-on for that personalization. If it's a value added that people really cherish and appreciate and will help them, that would be an easy add-on sale.
Yeah, agreed. No, fair point. And then in terms of corporate wellness, just to get your brain on that, of course, we're seeing them get more and more closer to the fitness industry, like in terms of how they're delivering, how they're personalizing. I guess it's a different, we look at the use cases that we're supporting them, and we're doing things where you might have 3 meetings back to back, and that organization will say, actually, if they've done 3 meetings back to back, they need to do a 10-minute shoulder roll, which I think is great. So that video will automatically play based off their calendar, which, kind of really hacking that, what they would call their work journey rather than the member journey, which we're so used to talking to. But is fitness, is the traditional fitness industry missing the corporate wellness side? I always think for me, even though I'm Mr. Digital, it's, the best experience is always at the club, the physical live. That's why you love the industry so much. I love the industry so much. It's still that live experience, but I always think about how does digital support that, either to get you to a live experience or to support you around your live experience. But are we doing enough in the corporate wellness world as a fitness industry to try and embrace that opportunity?
Well, let me use the example of the aggregators, because they've really managed that space and grown that space, and they have an army of people that are signing up the corporations and giving the corporations that have multiple sites that the benefit provider in HR, they don't have the time or the focus to look for all the different things that the people need. So to partner with an organization that has 9,000 clubs on their platform, that have the sleep modules, that have the weight management options, that makes a lot of sense. We don't want to put too much expectation on the HR department or the manager that can micromanage people's health and wellness. So I think with a partner that has it all, the smorgasbord, and maybe it's also AI that brings in the personalization.
Yeah, agreed.
And we're still in the early stages of that, if you ask me.
And I guess link it back to the club, make sure there's a physical ability for them to do it and then support them elsewhere. But yeah, it's just very interesting the way that they're thinking. I think, there's a lot of research out now where it's saying, okay, it's a bit of a weird thing to say, but healthier people in a way kind of die quicker, which is their major cost structures. So like a lot of them are looking at it actually as a cost mechanism things to get people more healthy, which I think is great for our entire industry. It's just maybe not an opportunity that we're completely realizing. So interesting. And then I guess for you, what technology or trends are kind of flying under the radar? What should we be embracing that we're not?
Well, I would say from the clubs that I've been interacting with, it's still only about 20% that are using chatbots.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
They're coming, but it's still very slow. They're figuring it out,
Yeah.
They have to feed these bots. They have to figure out what they want. And this is not on the radar of the 60-year-old club owner that's been doing this for 20 or 25 years. Very fine without digital. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. No, I get that. And what in terms of just an interactive layer and just to handle everything, right? Like in terms of workouts, membership inquiries, essentially be the receptionist, but a digital receptionist.
I would like to have the personal trainers or the floor trainers to be free of the burden of paperwork and other things, totally and just interacting with people to give them a friendly atmosphere, a pat on the back, a small correction. It can be a look, recognizing that they are there. It could be 15 seconds. It could be 2 minutes. An example that I saw in Portugal last fall, I was at a CrunchFit CR7 club, and they have 1 or 2 trainers, and there's 50 or 70 people in the club. But there's 2 or 3 places in the club that have a little button that you can press if you need help. And I want to try this out. So I pressed the button, and I looked around. It took about 10, 15 seconds, and I identified that a trainer with a certain color outfit. I watch him take out his phone. He looks at it. He can see which one of the little signal providers has rung him. And he looks over. It's me, and he gives me a little wave.
Okay, nice.
And he says, you can get it on Amazon. This is not high tech. This is not expensive stuff. And there's a lot of people that, I don't want to bother the trainer, but if it's part of the culture, please ring the bell if you need help. And the person actually comes, then you're going to win because you can serve the people better, all of them, not just the egregious ones that say, I need help, but there's, I don't want to interrupt the person, he's busy.
No, I quite like that. It's such a simple, low tech solution that actually can really make people feel supported. Nice. And then I guess or you get this question a lot, but 5 to 10 years, what's the kind of massive shifts that our industry is going to have to face, or you're excited by?
Well, I started seeing this about 2 years ago in the States, but it's happening now in the UK and in Sweden and starting next month in Switzerland, that the weight loss injection, which will become in 2-3 years a weight loss pill, will become, I think, a standard thing in 30% of the clubs to help people who say, I want to lose weight, but I need extra help. That there's a healthcare provider that it's part of that equation. That type of thing is going to be part of the delivery system. But education is also important, Paul, that people say, you want to lose weight, but if you don't weight train, you're also going to lose muscle. Did you know that? Wow. Oh, that makes sense.
Especially with GLP-1 technology, right, which suppresses the appetite and means that you're not eating enough to feed the muscle. So if you're not training it as well, it's a scary place to be.
But still, most of the clubs are like, oh no, we don't want to get involved in that. That's blasphemy. People need to have pain. They need to come in and work hard. It's cheating.
Do you think it would change? I think a few people said when it becomes like creatine, where creatine is just normal now, and of course they realized that it's important for brain function and all that type of stuff as well. So it has to have a pill form. I think there's so many people off put by the fact that they actually have to inject, right? So like when it becomes a pill form, the adoption is going to be huge.
Already, there's over 20 million Americans that are taking it.
I know,
and I
it's
listened
amazing.
to a podcast from Mental Health One Global, the UK organization, with a doctor in Portland, Oregon. And he said, we expect in 3 to 4 years, to be up to 50 million Americans taking the weight loss injection or pill.
Wow. Yeah. Well, like I've got a lot less anecdotal, but I've got 2 doctor friends that are here because just literally I think last month Saxenda, which is like another version of Opozemic, has just come to New Zealand, and he said probably around about, and it's very strict. You have to be over 35 BMI, and there's all these different protocols. You have to be psychologically sound before you take the Saxenda, and they said probably about 50% of his meetings now end with conversations about the weight loss drug. Yeah, even though they might come in for a broken arm, they want to talk about the weight loss drug. So it's amazing, isn't it?
But then let's put the doctor into the digital serving space that he also then. This is what David Minton, David from the UK?
Yes.
He says, well, once a year I go in for my checkup and I download all my Apple Health data to the doctor before I come. And he's looking at, and he is fluent in, analyzing that data that your Apple Watch provides. And that is a wonderful ecosystem if the doctor also can interpret that data.
Yeah. Well, my doctor, and again, he's a friend, so that he does a little bit more than maybe what he should. But yeah, he's actually connected to my Whoop, so he can actually see my Whoop on a regular basis. We're actually part of a group, so then he can quickly look it up before he even sees me. Goes, okay, right. This is what it's telling me. This is what needs to improve. So no, I understand it. I think it's well, it goes back to that personalization argument, but again, it also goes back to the fundamentals of our industry needs to support and inspire people, and so those 2 things help that, right? Yeah, nice.
That I think that person would be willing to pay a premium to have that depth of service, because if you say a guaranteed success program like Reto 48 in Madrid, they charge close to $1,000 for a 48-day program.
Yeah,
people come in 5 to 6 times a week for
yes.
small group training. They have a little kitchen there where they show people how to eat properly. They support them digitally. If they don't come in for 3 days, they're on the phone. They're hey, manage your commitment to your commitment.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are missing this. The clubs are missing it, that are saying, oh, people just want cheap. I think there's a big piece that are willing to pay more for the service that is curated to their needs.
I'm glad you said that. I'm always been a big believer that I think we've raced to the bottom a little bit too quickly, and I think we need to value ourselves a lot more as an industry. And I know you speak about it. A lot of people speak about it. So I hope that we can start adding services back into our offerings, because I think our facilities are amazing. Now we need to add services and add that value. So it's I think that's a good way to finish, Hans. Like how do people connect with you? So of course you're going to FIBO.
Yes, and I attend about 30, 35 events per year.
Wow. Yeah.
My favorite channel is LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect.
So people will find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, and through Facebook, Instagram, and there's a German one called Zing. And otherwise, there's old-fashioned email, and my telephone number is in the contact details on LinkedIn. I do a lot of business on WhatsApp these days, as people are saying, oh, I took too many emails. I want to reach somebody, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And old-fashioned, there's actually people that phone still.
It still happens. It's amazing. Look, thank you so much for joining the podcast, but thank you for everything that you do. I think people like yourselves for the longevity and the testament to what this industry has has created. So look, I appreciate you every single day trying to better this industry that we all love. So thank you very much, Hans.
So my final question to you is, did I pass the audition, Paul?
You did. Oh, of course you did. Well done.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you.
good time and greetings to New Zealand.
Cheers, Hans.